GPT-4 versus Claude versus Gemini. Let's see which one is the best to build your next web application. We will rank each LLM based on 3 different dimensions. The first one being design. This means the look and feel. Second one, functionality. How well the features work out of the box. And third but not least, reliability. Are there any bugs or issues in the code? Let's see. We will begin with what most startups need, which is landing page. I will be sending the same prompt to each one of the models. In this case, I'm just trying to create a landing page for a company called Ome.ai that specializes in the pharma sector. I ask it to follow some preferences, in this particular case, only the color palette of the website. I would like to have a cyan blue with a pearl white for the background. In here, you can see the results of each one of the models for that given prompt. On the top left, we got Gemini 2.5. On the top right, we got Claude 4 from Anthropic. And on the bottom left, it is OpenAI with GPT-4o. Let's begin by reviewing the results from Gemini 2.5. I think overall it's a very simple landing page, just some basic information, and it actually comes up with its own platform, which is quite surprising. I've seen a few startups actually doing this pitch, so I wonder if it's in the training data. In terms of functionality, not much to say here. Like, you got just the sections that it takes you to. But the contact us button is not working. There is no links here either. And yeah, there is not much that was implemented so far. Now here we got the results from Anthropic, Claude 4. As a general thing, at least in design, it looks a bit more polished than the version from Gemini. It tries to infer like some expertise, which I think is a good start. And some of these areas are actually, as somebody that is a product manager in the pharma sector, it's quite representative of the things that we're trying to prioritize. The good thing here is that the contact link actually works. So it opens up my email and it tries to send an email to the hello@omeai.com. The links, as you can see here, is just taking me there, like there's no animation like in the case of Gemini. For the third one, we got GPT-4o from OpenAI. Right off the bat, I don't know what you think about this, but I feel like the design and the content is much more polished. Overall, I feel like this is a much more professional landing page. Animations on the buttons, some basically KPIs from the product. It sort of like tells you like a bit more about this technologies that it is using. And it even includes placeholders for the founders. So yeah, I mean, it's very complete. I'm surprised. They even have this contact form here, which I think is pretty dope. And as well, the email, as soon as you click it, it opens the app. And so that's the phone with the FaceTime. Wow. It's trying to reach out to Google when it tries to open the map, but it's not working. But yeah, these buttons are not working. These ones are placeholders, but overall, really impressed with GPT-4o. It looks all good, at least for the initial prompts. But now let's try to make some changes. So in here, I'm just asking it to update the logo with this AI-generated logo that I attached. And also to change the name of the company to Boade, just a random name. And in this case, it does it well. I then ask it to crop the logo circularly so it doesn't look like a square. And it also does it pretty well. Also, in the case of Gemini and Claude, they also do the same. So no winner here so far. But it is true that Anthropic, at least in this case, didn't crop the image correctly, just added a blue circle on the background. But after asking it to fix it, it does it well on the second step. As a final request, I ask it to update the core capabilities of our team. In this case, I provide with two examples, one of them being manufacturing optimization, and the second one being document intelligence. And in the case of Claude, it just updates, well, it doesn't really update it, but actually adds these two core capabilities to the ones that it came up with before. In the case of Gemini, it just creates a very simple box. And at the end, we got GPT from OpenAI, which actually looks fantastic. Really good explanation of the capabilities, good design, important results added, and also add some buttons to go to those use cases which are not filled yet. But overall, I think there's a clear winner here, which is OpenAI. And here we got the results for each one of the models. Obviously, the GPT-4o in terms of look and feel was the best. Claude 4 comes second. And Gemini 2.5, in my opinion, which design is very subjective, I would say it looked the most amateur website from the three. Then in terms of functionality, we saw that in the case of GPT-4o, also blew the competition away. It included sections about the founders, the contact email of work, even included a contact form within the website. And it actually nailed some of the properties that a landing page should have. Last, we got reliability. GPT-4o and Gemini did not give any issues. In the case of Claude 4, as we saw, it has some issues about understanding the request. Test number 2. Let's actually try to get some more complex front end. In this case, I'm asking Lovable to create an AI voice animation that uses an API to record and transcribe the audios in the browser. But let's go one step at a time. So let's start with only creating the voice recorder that jiggles a bubble whenever the user talks. It's basically the thing that you have in an OpenAI app, in which as soon as you're speaking, the bubble is jiggling. And here are the first results from the prompt. As it was the previous time, on the top left, we got Gemini 2.5. On the top right, we got Claude 4 from Anthropic. And on the bottom left, we got GPT-4o from OpenAI. And in this case, I think we can just see the differences all together. So very similar designs, at least in the case of Gemini and OpenAI. I really like the concept of having the button and the animation on the same component. So props to them for that. So let's test it out. Let's see which ones are working out of the box. Testing, 1, 2. Okay, so we can see that Gemini works quite well. Let's try Claude 4. Testing, hello, hello, 1, 2. We don't see anything, and also on the bottom of the website, you can see that it's not detecting anything on the voice. And last but not least, let's try with OpenAI. Testing, 1, 2. Okay, that's great. Both Gemini and OpenAI, they work out of the box. But I do prefer the animation in the OpenAI. Really surprised with the design so far. In the case of Gemini, it changes the color to be recording. So yeah, hard to tell. Like I think they're both really good. So yeah, so Gemini 2.5 and GPT-4o, good functionality. In the case of Claude, we're having some issues. And in this case, I'm just saying that the bubble does not jiggle, so it is flickering instead. Like you cannot see in the recording, but it is flickering for me. So I asked it to fix it, and this was the version, and it's still now it doesn't do anything. It doesn't even flicker. And then I asked it again to fix it. Doesn't work. So at this point, disappointed with Claude 4. So in the cases that it actually works, I then try to do the next step, which is actually transcribe. So now transcribe the text live as the user speaks. And in this case, we get a building error from Gemini. And in the second one, let's see. Hello, testing, 1, 2. 1 U, but I think this has more to do with the limitation of the speech to text that the model is using. But overall, good stuff. After 1 hour, we got it running. Now we do the same with GPT-4. I ask it to transcribe, and also the same, it gets actually an error as well, as it does with Gemini. And in this case, let's see, testing, hello, 1, 2. As you can see, it does the same mistake as Gemini was doing. So more to do with the underlying API that it's using. And here we got the results for the mic frontend. In terms of design, it was pretty tight between OpenAI and Google. I think this is completely subjective because it was a close call, but I liked the GPT-4o because of its simplicity and the more appealing and fluid animation, with Claude 4 being the worst design of all of them. Functionality, so how it works out of the box, also very tight, but in the case of Gemini 2.5, it actually managed to change the animation between when it's actually recording and when it's not, very fluently. So for that reason, I'm giving it the first place. And GPT-4o second with the same functionality, only that it didn't change the icon. And we got last as Claude, because in the case of Claude, I couldn't even make it jiggle the bubble. And I tried with a few more prompts after that, and it didn't work out at all. And lastly, we got reliability. So in the case of GPT-4o and Gemini, they both had an issue where I was prompting. Each one had one issue, so they score similarly. And then we got Claude, in which, first of all, the builds were not running sometimes, and at the same time, it was just not reliable. Now it is time for our final test. For the final one, I would like to have a WhatsApp clone. I wanted to make it look like exactly like the WhatsApp app, and for it to let me hardcode some messages. I know that there is many tools online that you can already use for this, but I just want to test like how much can you actually learn from copying others? Because I believe it's a very interesting question of the whole topic of the data that is being used for training these AI models. And here are the results. On the left, we got Gemini from Google. On the center, we got Claude 4 from Anthropic. And on the right, it is GPT-4o from OpenAI. In terms of design, so in the case of Google, it's using the light mode of the application, and overall, I would not be able to tell the difference. I think it's very similar to the real thing. The only thing is missing on the left is actually the icons here for attachments and emojis. And the blue check mark, if you see the real one, it doesn't look like this. It actually looks more like this one. So then we have Anthropic, poor choice of color palette. I think it's very different from the real application. The blue check marks, great, but as it happens with Gemini, it's only including the text box to send a message. Thinking about how much detail I provide in the prompt, like this is okay. Like I'm pretty sure I could ask it to add those in the future and may be able to do it. And on the right, with the case of OpenAI, is using the dark mode or dark theme. And it actually including the symbols for the emoji and attachment, even though neither of them clicks. And also the mic, which it looks different than the current version of WhatsApp, but I guess it's close enough for now. Another point about the OpenAI implementation, like the blue check marks, they're using a single check, which is not correct. And also it added this like pen on the left, so I think it's somewhat showing the web version of WhatsApp. So in terms of functionality, I can send messages in the version of Gemini, also in the version of Anthropic, but not on the version of GPT. So as you can see here, I started doing some changes. So I wanted to ask to change the image of the person being texted to the one attached, and also the name to be the clinical dental. And in this case, it does it perfectly. And the next step, I just want to hard code some conversation. So I'm putting D as me and S as the receiver. This conversation is in Spanish, and actually doesn't have to do even with a dental clinic when I'm talking here. And next, I just confronted with the fact that the check marks are not the correct ones. So I asked it to do a double check mark which it does, but you can see that the design is not very good. Then I attach an image here to make the red receipts look more like this. And then it runs into a build error, which I try to resolve. And then it does this thing, which is the symbols glowing. And last but not least, I get a pretty decent design, like very similar to what we saw in the case of Google out of the box. By the way, I requested the same changes to be done in both OpenAI and Anthropic, but for some reason I cannot access those changes right now. But when I did them, in both cases, they managed to do it correctly without any build errors. So in this case, the only problematic one was with OpenAI. And now for the results of this test. So design, once more, GPT-4o wins the prize. I based it, I mean, it's a bit subjective in this case, but at least the look and feel, it looks much more realistic for me, like this page. Like if I had enough WhatsApp in front of me to see like a small variation in this case, like I would really believe that this was the real WhatsApp. In the case of Anthropic, there is nothing wrong with this design, but it feels a bit outdated, especially the color palette used in here. But of course, he nailed the double blue check marks, so that's a plus for it. And yeah, on the left we got Lovable. In this case, it's just the light team, only that doesn't have those icons here. In terms of functionality, like what can I actually do out of the box, or like just to make some basic changes, Claude and Gemini perform the same, no issues. In the case of GPT-4o, we saw that there is a problem with the blue check marks, and also that it does not include the ability to chat from the beginning. And lastly, reliability, like issues, bugs. Again, a tie between Claude and Gemini, no problem at all. Also making the same changes that we did with the GPT-4o, but in this case, OpenAI had quite some issues trying to fix its problem. Now for the final verdict. I will be using the following scoring criteria. So based on the rank that they managed to score in each one of the 3 different dimensions, we'll be giving it 2 points in case it was first, 1 point in the case it was second or a tie, and 0 points if it scored as the last one. And these are the final results. So in the case of design, we got a clear champion, which is GPT-4o. Then we got functionality with a tie between GPT-4o and Gemini. And Claude, which I'm really surprised. I think it was very unfortunate with the test that we ran, scoring the last one. Lastly, we got reliability. Gemini 2.5, at least from these tests, it was the one with the least amount of issues or bugs. And that being said, again, I don't know what's happening with Claude, but not only was it giving issues, but in many cases, I was not able to resolve it via prompting. So I ended up hitting some roadblocks. And here's the final verdict. We got GPT-4o in first place overall with 11 points, Gemini 2.5 with 7, and surprisingly, I didn't expect this at all, Claude in last place with 5 points. Of course, this was a subjective set of tests. I'm really curious to see like what everybody else is gonna try to build and see if this hypothesis holds true. But man, I am surprised that Claude finished last. But I have one final bonus thing that I wanted to check. And that is that I wanted to actually see the differences in the code of the 3 different variants by Lovable, to see like what actually changes from one provider to another. And the cool thing about Lovable is that you can actually go and connect your repository to GitHub. And what we have here is the actual code. And what I can do is that I can actually download this code, and we can try to run some diff of these folders. Of course, you can do this also with Git, but in this case, I just want to show you like a very quick comparison using a free tool online called Diffoscope. And overall, like I think the majority of the project is the same. So it's not like Lovable is just making like a just a wrapper around one of these LLM providers. They actually have a lot of knowledge about what are the core components that they have to deploy in order to make a functioning app. So they quite standardize that with some templates, I assume. And the majority of changes that I'm seeing here in this first preview is just about CSS and HTML files. But I would like to do a bit more in-depth analysis with JIT, maybe in the next video. But yeah, just wanted to share with you that there is a lot of templating going on behind the scenes. And this has been everything from my side. It's been a pretty fun experiment. Thank you for listening and have a great day.